And I Quote is bringing you expert to expert advice and insights. Our thought provoking conversations with insurance industry professionals will inspire and educate our listeners on the latest trends and hot topics.
Let's move our industry forward together. The And I Quote podcast is brought to you by Coterie Insurance. Coterie is simplifying the way agents work with small business.
Now let's get started. All right. Well, welcome to this episode of the And I Quote podcast. I'm Ashleigh Burden, one of the co-hosts, and I'm really excited today as I get a unique chance to chat with Coterie's co-founder and CEO, David McFarland. Welcome to the podcast, David.
Thanks, Ashleigh.
Well, excited to have you on. So we were chatting a little bit before this, and David's done a ton of podcasts. So we'll try to make this one fun and interesting. Maybe our audience can learn some new things about you that they might not know. So excited to dive in. Cool. Well, a couple things we can obviously, there's a ton of biographies out there about you, but I thought we'd start off with like some this or that questions just to get to know you a little bit more. So first, okay, Coterie is a remote first company, but we do have, a couple offices. So what is your preference? Is your preference working at home or going into the office?
My preference is going into the office. I have 5 children, and all of them are homeschooled. So my house is constantly chaotic, especially since 4 of those kids are boys. Therefore, I try to make it into the office as much as I can. I love being with my family, don't get me wrong. I get home and have dinner with them, have breakfast with them, all that kind of fun stuff. But the working day would be very hectic if I was at home.
Yeah, I can completely understand that. So that is great. Great to hear that. So in the office. Cool. So then one of the other things that maybe internally we know about you at Coterie is that you like to travel, do some hiking, but within that travel, do you prefer the mountains or the beach?
Oh, mountains, 100%. I grew up in South Florida, Fort Lauderdale, and I think the lack of mountains combined with the overexposure to the beach made me not as much a fan of the beach and really focus on the mountain side of things. I'll take the mountains any day.
Cool. Okay, bonus question. What's been like your favorite mountain, either like hike or vacation, what have you?
There is, I think it's called Cupid and Grizzly in Colorado, right outside of Denver. And I think they're both 13ers, or one's a 13er and one's a 14er. And it's really nice because you can do both of them in a single outing. And the fact that you can summit 2 13 or 2 14ers, that's a fun outing. It's not too difficult. There's some good scrambling, but definitely a fun hike.
That sounds incredible. Yeah, I love that. I'll have to definitely look into that one. And then sports. I know we again internally here at Coterie, there's a few basketball stories there, but a couple other sports questions for you. So football or baseball? Between the two of those, what you choose?
Football. Definitely. I think I was actually made much more for football than basketball. I'm like created to be a tight end, and I'm naturally much more gifted at football. But my school, when I was in high school, didn't actually have a football team, so I played basketball. Yeah.
Okay, so kind of by not by your choice to the basketball room.
Yeah.
Very cool. And then okay, you talked about your family a little bit at home. So within the family, do you prefer to cook at home or go out to eat?
Oh, we cook at home all the time. Everything's cooking at home. I'm usually not the one cooking unless it's breakfast. I make breakfast for everybody, but my wife generally does all the other meals. But yeah, definitely cooking at home.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that. I think there's something about it, like that experience, especially with your family. Like it's just a kind of unique, cool experience. You get to have some fun with it too. So
yeah. It's also super expensive when you go out to eat with 7 people.
Especially these days. Totally. Okay, last but not least, and I think I know the answer to this one, but I will pose it so our audience can know: podcast or read a book?
Oh, read a book. Yes, you know the answer to that. I love reading. Don't get me wrong. I love podcasts. Podcasts are very informative. They're nice little like snacks, whereas a book is like a meal. Some books are like multiple meals, like if you get into Russian literature. But I definitely enjoy getting through a good book.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I used to be more of a podcast person, but as of late, I've definitely gone back and more into the book world, and it's been fun to kind of I'm actually in a book club, so it's kind of fun to, like, dive into genres that I normally wouldn't go into, so
Yeah.
it's fun to definitely, like you said, it's more of the meal versus the snack.
Yes, yes.
Totally agree with that. Well, cool. Well, thanks for sharing a little bit. I think it's fun to just get to know you a little bit more. So dive a little bit into the Coterie story. I know you've told it a ton of times, but just more so, I want to take a little bit of a reflective viewpoint onto it. So when Coterie was founded, take us back to 2018 and what that looked like, and what was your initial like vision for Coterie?
Yeah, so when we were starting Coterie, I had this idea. Really, it goes back all the way to NCCI, where I saw the small commercial space, just no one was approaching it. And I really wanted to, at its heart, make an insurance company that could integrate just about anywhere and quickly knock out the small commercial policyholders, right? Just buying policies extremely fast. And where I saw this small commercial space going was that we needed to have a very flexible, dynamic microservices architecture so that we could API into just about anywhere we wanted to. The comparative raters, the new tools that small businesses were using, whatever it was, I thought agents and brokers were going to start evolving towards this. I think that was a little bit ahead of its time, in a bad way. And we needed to create something for where people were at the time as well. So we spun up Dashboard, made it easy for agents and brokers to just work with us via agency dashboard. But then we started integrating simultaneously with every single supporting system out there, the Breezes, the Tarnicas, the Simsees, everyone. And thankfully, the market has gone in that direction, but simultaneously we have something that can help out the agent who just wants to work with us from a dashboard perspective, or if someone wants to integrate with us directly, we can do that too. And I think that approach has been generally useful in having Coterie become ubiquitous in the agency space and the brokerage space, and really helping the agents and brokers, which has always been the primary goal of our business. We love our policyholders, don't get me wrong, we indemnify them, but we unashamedly, as an insurance company, say we make this for the agents and brokers. We want to create something valuable to them so that we can help them solve the problems that they have.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's kind of cool because I remember those days of integrating wherever we could integrate. And it was a wild, fun time for sure. But it's great to look back on that too. And then thinking about that, like, how has your vision expanded? Have you changed at all, expanded? Like, what does it look like for you now for Coterie?
The initial idea was, well, it still is the small commercial space, and we started off in the BOP GL professional liability side of things. The fact that we've seen this work so well for just that small subset means it will probably work well for other areas in the insurance space too.
Mhm.
So we're looking to launch some additional products and endorsements onto those, as well as even looking into expanding into other areas, even the non-admitted space or even other lines beyond that. Commercial auto seems like definitely a need, but it's a little bit of a difficult one from an insurance perspective. So I don't know if we're going to get there anytime soon, but there I'd say some other areas that we can help the agents and brokers with cyber, other types of things like that can help them.
Yeah, 100%. It's great, to get that. I think the core thing that we do here at Coterie is really taking that feedback from our agents and brokers and then using that to iterate. So I think that's great that you hit on that. So switching gears just a little bit, and I love personally like founder stories, like they just fascinate me, and just the creativity and the drive it's just one of those things that's just so exciting. So kind of your founder story, right? Like you had this idea, but there were probably some challenges along the way. So what would you say is what was your biggest challenge, or is still your biggest challenge in the road of becoming a CEO and just being a founder?
I think one part that gets a little bit overlooked because it's not interesting is just the preparation it takes to get to the point of expertise where you can actually do something.
Yeah.
Some founders are all passion, no knowledge, and that leads to like a really bright, quick flame that often goes out. Too many of us are too much knowledge and no passion, and that means nothing ever gets sparked. I think you need both in intense amounts. You need a lot of passion and you need a lot of knowledge. And so most of my adult life was just preparing for what I wanted to do. I'm a fellow in the Casualty Actuarial Society. That's a very extensive process that takes a number of years to pass all those exams. And while I was doing that, I was in a very, I'd say, difficult, but good difficult employment situations where I got to push myself in new ways and learn new things. And all that is kind of the non-interesting setup to what would end up becoming a very strong foundation to build a business from. I've never lacked for passion too much. I've always been a fairly energetic person and always wanting to do stuff. But to have the knowledge and have to really put in, have the patience to learn and learn and learn, that benefited me greatly. Now, you don't want to wait too long. Right. You want your passion to overtake it sometimes, but because I'm definitely learning things now. But I think that setup has been foundational to the next step. Now, the next step, the interesting hard parts, which what you're getting at is, so when I finally had I'd say the push to really move on this idea, say, okay, I think I know enough now to make this happen. I was talking to some investors when I was in Chicago, and they were interested in the idea. At the time, my wife was pregnant with our third child, and we started kind of moving towards saying, "Yep, we're gonna start this company called Coterie." And we'd chosen, we're going to move from Chicago to Cincinnati. We like the Midwest. We wanted kind of an insurance town and had to have a good airport. So we found Cincinnati. And like the Saturday before we left to go to Cincinnati, the original investors who I was talking to called up and basically said, like, hey, we want you to change the direction of the business. We want you to go in this route, be more of a broker rather than a true like insurance company. I was like, no, I don't think we can actually change the insurance space if we do that. And they said, okay, well, we're out. So that was not ideal. Good realization that, so I moved to Cincinnati having no money and no team and not knowing a soul. And managed to have, like 1,000 coffee dates and build a team who I did not and could not pay. And that was in the summer. And then through that, we ended up signing the first term sheet for Coterie on August 20th. And that night, my wife went into labor with our third child, and he was born the next day. So a little stressful.
Just a little bit.
But that was the start of many stressful years that had great hardships in them that we got to learn from. And it's been a delight learning from all these various hardships. I mean, no one writes a story about the individual who had this great grand desire and everything went extremely well and without any problems ever. Right? That's not a thing.
That's not the story that gets written.
Anything worth doing is usually going to be fairly difficult.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And like you kind of hit on it, but those lessons along the way are, I think, those things that are really cool to me because you wouldn't have gotten those lessons. You wouldn't have learned those lessons, before trying it. So I think that's amazing just to kind of hear that story. And again, it's not like, a Jordan story, perfect story of, how you got to this point. But I think it's incredible just to see, the growth and like even when you went back to talking about your vision and then to see where Coterie is today. So that actually leads into the next question that I was thinking of in terms of, Coterie being like a partnership focused, company and in the insurance space. So how do you look to prioritize that experience of working with Coterie for our agents, for our partners, even our vendors? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, feedback. I'm a big believer in feedback from the partners. We need to make experiences that are valuable to people. If you want to build a valuable company, like create value. That's a something I'm very big on. And how do you create value for people? Well, you got to understand where they're losing value, right? Or where, what are the areas that they're not capitalizing on certain things, and why are they not capitalizing on those certain things, right? The small business space, there's 33 million small businesses. Why are agents not monetizing them? It's because it takes for Coterie, it took anywhere between 4 hours and 4 weeks to bind some of these policies, and they're only going to make 150 or 200 bucks off of them.
Yeah.
It made no sense.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, can we make this process seconds instead of hours? And turns out we could. Business name and address. We can get this information, get it done, make it delightful. But you can't just have the speed and simplicity. You also need to have good service, because these agents, they care. The brokers, the agents, they care about the policyholder, and they want to make sure that everyone's taken care of in the process. So, okay, well, we need to do that. So we need to make sure that the people who are servicing the agents, servicing the policyholders, have the tools to where they can service efficiently. And the whole idea of just making things extremely efficient for the benefit of, yes, the agent and broker, but also the policyholder, is critical to everything we're doing. So that feedback loop is extremely important if you want to stay, if you want to create value and therefore create a valuable company.
Yeah, 100%. And I think what's amazing is that, we really do lean into that, whether it's from our Coterie Collaborative, which is more of this kind of think tank group, but then even our day-to-day surveys, CSAT scores, things like that. We really do lean really heavily into that. So I think it makes a huge difference, across the company.
I agree. Jim Hubble, he's someone who I chatted with. You know him, right? He was one of the first agents, brokers that I reached out to, and I just went to his office in Cincinnati and talked to him for probably 2 hours. Hey, what are the problems that you struggle with when you're writing this type of business? And he was a fountain of information that really helped in the initial conversations. But that culture of talking to the individuals who are most impacted is something that I think is fairly baked into everything that we do.
I agree 100%. And it helps us to keep a pulse on their experience, because one thing that I found is you can tend to sort of get into a mode of thinking of a problem or even a solution in one particular singular way. But then when you hear that actual user feedback or their problem or what's, the complicated piece for them, it kind of broadens your horizon, makes you think about things in ways you never would have thought about before.
Absolutely. I heard a good phrase that's kind of similar. It's he who's always teaching never learns anything.
I love that. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I love it. But that is, I think, again, it just goes to our heart and really, what we seek to accomplish here at Coterie, which again is just prioritizing that experience for our agents and brokers and our partners. So love that you shared that. So just, thinking ahead at the time of recording this, we're a little bit over halfway through 2024, and 2023, 2024, kind of a wild ride so far. But with that being said, what are some things, what are you excited about most, whether it's for Coterie or your life, of itself?
That's a good question. The things that I'm excited about for Coterie is we're seeing the fruits of a very strong business. Loss ratio is strong, premium growth is strong, revenue growth is strong. We have great partners. We're really set up on an amazing foundation right now, both in terms of our capital base, our insurance base, the overall strength of the insurance product itself, the pricing. And I think we're really creating a lot of value for the partners that we have, and we're continuing to bring on more and more partners every day. So that is just the overall benefit that we're bringing to the market, and how it's becoming more and more ubiquitous is probably one of the most exciting parts. As far as what I'm excited about to come, I think we're going to be able to add a lot of value to our partners in the launch of some of these additional products. I'm excited about that in 2024 because we've done a good job of introducing something to the market that is helpful in a particular area, but we haven't been able to give as much to the agents and brokers as I would have liked. We've improved a ton of things, but I've wanted to always kind of create not a complete one-stop shop, because there's some things we won't be able to do in the short term, but more of a one-stop shop to help these agents and brokers really nail down the small commercial side of things. So I'm very excited about where this is going throughout 2024 and in 2025.
Awesome. That's great to hear. It was, exciting again, like you mentioned, just to be able to offer more to our agents and brokers, and obviously that means growth for both, for both our partners and for Coterie as well. So happy that you shared that. So I wanted to kind of end things on a fun note, just to give our audience a little bit of peek into Coterie, like our culture. We do a lot of fun things. We have Friday wins. We have an in-person, get together once a year. We'd have a ton of fun. So in terms of the culture that you've built here at Coterie, and obviously everyone's contributed to that, but what are you most proud of when you think about Coterie as like a company itself and our culture?
I'd say the reflection of our four core values in the various Coterians. So for those who don't know, our values are intelligence, integrity, passion, and humility. And the one sentence way we describe ourselves is we're smart, energetic people who do the right thing and we don't brag about it. Kind of like lovable nerds. I think that's lovable, action-oriented nerds. And it's ubiquitous in our culture. There's ton of people who really like to get after problems, and a lot of people read. A lot of readers. So we see both a desire to gain intelligence, but also humility in that they realize they don't know everything. People are direct. We're direct but tactful and respectful, and that. That has helped us immensely deal, I think, with a lot of difficult changes. Helps us that we can be flexible, quick to adapt, and we can also look at ourselves in a fairly objective, humble way and say we need to improve here. And with that, I think we have the culture. The technology is great, and everything we have is a great foundation for a company. But have the culture as a good foundation is extremely necessary too if you want to succeed and actually create more value for people. Otherwise, you're going to think, oh, well, I've already figured all this out. Everything's great. I never need to change, which is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. No, I love that you shared that, and I agree 100%. I think just the amazing, like, intelligence, passion, drive that's here at Coterie, I truly believe it's unmatched, honestly. Like, for, as far as startups go, larger companies, it is incredible to be here and really see that in action every day. So that really gives kudos to you and the team that you've built and the company that you've built. Again, I appreciate just personally, like, your leadership style and your vision for Coterie and being able to then translate that across the company. So again, I want to thank you, David, for being on the podcast. This was really fun for me personally, just to get to chat with you and some one-on-one time. And I hope that our audience can gain a lot of insights from what you've shared. And thank you for being on the podcast.
Likewise, Ashleigh. It was delightful. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.